Hey everybody, welcome to Thirsty Thursday edition of Plumbing with Tim, the show where I answer questions from the viewer, such as yourself, as well as frequently asked questions I get from my customers. Let's dive right in. Today's first question comes from a Rosemary. Rosemary asks, why do my copper pipes look green? Well, there's a few different reasons behind that, and we'll talk about that real fast. First of all, it could be from the age of the pipes that you have in your home, 40, 50, 60 years old, who knows how old they are, as well as the fact of what's known as electrolytic corrosion. What that means is you might have two different types of metal. You see a lot of this green happening near where there's shutoff valves that are attached to your copper pipe and stuff, or that shutoff valve is made out of brass and it's hooked into copper, and after years, those two metals decide not to agree with each other. Also, another reason why you may see green around your pipe is when they did the copper work during the construction of the home, when they soldered the copper fittings and stuff. Everybody knows from other videos that I've put out, when you solder copper, you have to use a bonding agent known as flux. But it's just as important and necessary to wipe that excess flux off of the pipe once it's cooled down and you have a complete product. If not, that flux will start corroding that pipe and thus turning it green. Thanks for the question. Question number 2 today comes from a Pauline. Miss Pauline asks, from time to time I hear a weird howling sound coming from my plumbing. Got any ideas what that might be? Well, usually I've heard the sound many times and stuff, unless you have something crazy and weird that's happening and stuff. Usually that is being generated from a little device that hooks up to your spigot outside where you would hook a hose up to, and that's called a vacuum breaker. Whether you know it or not, maybe the husband or kids outside and they're turning that hose on or turning it off. Those were installed during the construction of the home a lot of times because of code, kind of like a backflow, so the water coming out couldn't flow back in. And after a while, the seal inside of that little vacuum breaker that's on the end of your spigot will end up creating a kind of a reed sound, like a or such like that. And then when you cut it off, it goes off. So that would be my number one guess. If you don't have any of those on your hoses, maybe it's time you call a local licensed plumber and have him come out and maybe do a walk around and inspect the house. So really good question. Thanks. One moment while we pay the bills. Okay, so this is the third and final question of the evening. It is our featured question of the night, and it comes in from a Mr. Steve. Steve asks, what is a force main? Good question. Okay, so let's break this down. It's exactly what it's called, a force main. Imagine your home in a neighborhood. Everybody in the neighborhood is on city sewer, and maybe you live on the outskirts of town and stuff like that. You flush your toilet, you use your bathroom, you do all your other stuff. All the water in the business goes down the drain, and it goes out of the house and out to the city sewer line. Well, that sewer waste and wastewater, it's got to go somewhere, and it's got miles and miles and miles to travel to make it to the sewage treatment plant. So strategically placed in these neighborhoods are what's called lift stations. These are large holding tanks that these city sewer lines go and dump into, and as it fills up, inside of these lift stations are large grinder pumps that have floats. So as the water level rises in these tanks, so does the float, and once that float gets to a point, it kicks on that pump and it forces the water out through a large water main, sewer main, and onto maybe another lift station, series of lift stations, all the way until it makes it to the final destination, which is usually your sewage treatment plant. Thus, and hence the name force main. Force mains also can be used for pumping water or irrigation and stuff like that. Force main is a type of pipe that is forcing a substance such as potable water, non-potable water, usually sewage and sanitation for that matter, through pipes to a desired location. Great question. I just love hearing those. Thanks a lot, Steve. All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Really appreciate you taking a few minutes and dropping by and listening to me babble on about plumbing and all that good stuff. Anyways, if you've got a question that you'd like to have answered right here on the show, leave them down below in the comments. While you're at it, make sure to give me a thumbs up, maybe a comment, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe. And we will see you again on the next episode of Thirsty Thursday. Take care.